Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to a Sunday night reading during a really big weekend in New Orleans, St. Patrick's Day and Super Sunday. It is such an honor to host you tonight. My name is Nikki.
I'm Michelle.
Michelle. Together we are Liminal Lit, an official nonprofit. Everything we do for free. So if that moves you in any kind of way throughout the evening, we have a bucket for donations. You can also Venmo us or buy our drinks. That would also be nice. But we are super excited to host for all of you tonight, to host these three amazing local writers. So without further ado, Michelle's gonna intro our first reader, which is Kirsten.
Pardon me if I'm a little long-winded tonight because, we've got some really big personalities and big talent, and it's so much. It is really my absolute delight today to welcome to the stage my dear friend Kirsten Reneau, whose work and workshops have never failed to inspire and ground me. Of all my interactions with Kirsten, all of my interactions with Kirsten sharpen my craft or reconnect me with the fundamental purpose of this work we do, to learn together, create together, and celebrate together. Seriously, not a single carnival has passed since Kirsten has entered my life that I have not just casually crossed paths with her multiple times, exchanging throws and wild tales from the streets of the Marigny, sharing a spot of warm, calm play among family in the midst of the mania and chaos that can be New Orleans sometimes. Essays like Bar Bathroom Graffiti in New Orleans 1 Year Catalog and an obituary for the mall in Fairmont, West Virginia reveal just this one side of Kirsten's superpower. A light in the night, an eye of the storm. Kirsten has an uncanny ability to continue to notice deeply, to make space and time for consideration and exchange, and the tumult and change that defines our modern landscape, our history, and our psyches. But the list of Kirsten's published titles, to which I might refer to convey the magnitude of the topics and the diversity of form Kirsten manages, goes on, implicitly revealing the inclusivity of play that are at the center of Kirsten's game. I'm grateful that she chose the UNO MFA and then chose to stay, to be a part of our NOLA family. I admire her not only as a writer, but as a teacher, and yes, even a leader. Kirsten is a model of professionalism for all of us. Not only does she work as a full-time English instructor at a local public high school, Kirsten is low-key, steady, sharing her craft knowledge and buoying spirits with writers around town. I know for a fact that she has helped many other writers with editing projects, and I personally have generated some really great flash fiction pieces in workshop with her. I'm sure if you reach out to her through her website, the technically authorized website of Kirsten Reneau at kirstenreneau.com, she'd love to collaborate with you too. Yeah, absolutely. Just plug that. Love you. But until then, we can enjoy whatever tasty dish Kirsten has whipped up for us tonight.
Also, another plug for Kirsten. If you enjoyed tonight's reading, we have books for sale, courtesy of Blue Cypress Books. Kirsten's chapbook, a prose chapbook actually, because she can do so many things, is for sale. So please stop by and pick that up, and Kirsten will sign it for you. All right, Kirsten, Reneau or Reneau?
Reneau.
Okay, I was like, I always pronounce it
I
Reneau.
always do that. I don't mind.
You cackled every time she said your name wrong.
Every time. I always do this. It's just forever.
Kirsten Reneau received her MFA from the University of New Orleans, coming by way of West Virginia. She has been anthologized, nominated for prizes such as the Pushcart and Best of the Net, and was the 2022 winner of the Read Magazine Challenge in Nonfiction. Her debut collection, Sensitive Creatures, is coming out in 2024 with Bell Point Press. Give it up for Kirsten!
That was so nice. Oh my gosh. I knew it was going to be nice because I've been to one of these before. I didn't know how nice it felt to be on the receiving end. I'm glad you mentioned it because I'm actually reading one of the pieces Michelle talked about, Bar Bathroom Graffiti in New Orleans, one of the catalog. It's about the first full year that I lived here, so it's 2019, so you might recognize a little bit of what I'm talking about. All right. Bar Bathroom Graffiti in New Orleans, a one-year catalog. Don't worry, dear, I forgive you. January 1st, our bar. It feels good to go into a new year knowing that someone somewhere has forgiven me for all that I am and all that I've done. In this moment, the bathroom nearly feels like a confessional, as if I can speak to the walls in this single stall and reveal the worst parts of myself. As long as I come back, I will be forgiven again and again, no conditions attached. This is actually often how I feel in bar bathrooms. A step away from the people and noise and all that encompasses. I like to observe the graffiti, see the stalls become galleries, find out what people are yelling into the universe. Sometimes I like to think it's just for me. I've never written anything myself, but I understand the urge to create something that feels permanently heard. Impeach Kavanaugh, January 2nd, Bank Street Bar. It's only been a few months since the Kavanaugh hearings, and the very private wound felt collectively is still dangerously open. The summer I was 14, I tripped on gravel and the skin of my knees opened up to show the world my insides. When it happened, first I screamed at the blood on the rocks, then I laughed, and then I was doing both. I couldn't help myself. The camp nurse comforted me and applied neosporin and wrapped my body back inside itself. Weeks after I peeled off the ace bandage, I still picked at the bubbles of individual scabs left behind, let them open over and over and over again until my mother started to question how they hadn't healed yet and whether she should take me to a medical professional. My father assured her it was my fault. I was the one keeping them red and alive. This time, it's not me picking up the scab, but I carry the guilt of it all the same. The invisible open gash of living in a woman's body that other people have tried to claim as their own. It feels good to see that even in bar bathrooms, someone is offering what feels like a tender touch across the walls. The entirety of When Death Comes and an excerpt of Wild Geese by Mary Oliver, January 18th, 12 Mile. We're drinking because the poet Mary Oliver was alive 2 days ago and dead the day after, and the world seemed worse all at once. There are 2 tributes to the poet from 2 different people, separate handwriting on the same wall honoring one woman. For a moment, it felt like we were all holding hands, collectively grieving, if not for her, for someone else, even if it was just ourselves. Throughout the year, I continue to return to the shrine of her. You do not have to be good for writing her movement. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. What does the soft animal of my body love? What does any animal want? It feels like we're all just dominoes trying to topple into each other to create something meaningful, some way to be heard. But does it matter? It is in your self-interest to find a way to be very tender. February 20th, somewhere in New Orleans. The first E in tender is scratched out, so it almost looks like Tinder instead, which I like nearly as much. I am very drunk when I first read this, which is why I don't know where it is. But I continue to look for it over and over again. Banshee, 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 February 21st, Santos Bar. The text, all caps, screams against the wall. The music, heavy and full of guitars, screams back, I want to scream too. Banshee feels like a loaded word for a woman, and because of that, I think I like it. It's probably a band name or something, but that doesn't really matter to me right now. The walls are thin and the bass of the music penetrates into the back room, where women talk about men and offer strangers their lipsticks. Outside the bathroom door, through the dance floor, and over to the bar, a man I think I could spend a lot of time with buys me a drink. We've been on enough dates that I've lost count, but not so many the newness has worn off. He's lived in the city long enough he can take me to bars I haven't been to yet. And I'm new enough to New Orleans, I am still very impressed by that. I still feel like I have to impress him. I like to revel in that caring. It presses against my chest when he looks at me, the want that comes with it. I worry he won't want me when I become human, when everything stops being so easy, so fun. I know it has to happen eventually, but I'd like him to stay long enough to find out. We eat gumbo because it's great. February 23rd, Circle Bar. It's the thick of carnival season, my first, and I'm always having fun and always tired. Waking up with glitter in my bed, even though it hasn't been on my body in weeks, and I swear I keep washing the sheets. In my dreams there's music, and I eat so much it feels decadent. I feel like I could be in love just a little bit, with the man, with the city, with the constant feeling that I am on the precipice of something wonderful. Beads hang from the trees by my house like the Spanish moss. Time blurs in a way that makes me feel like I am holding a glass figurine in my hand. There is something so deeply precious in my grasp that if I am too intent and squeeze it, or if I am too relaxed and drop it, it could all shatter. God and I have become like two giant people living in a tiny boat. We keep bumping into each other and laughing. February 28th, somewhere on Frenchman. I haven't prayed in a long time, but I like the idea of finding a God on accident in places that don't feel so serious and devout. I want to touch something holy in places that make me laugh too. My grandfather is a pastor, but at this point I've been avoiding the church longer than I ever attended. The writing is in chalk. Someone will erase it by morning, I'm sure of it. Taking a picture feels like my way of telling a God that I am listening, I am preserving, and if this is for me, I will try to keep laughing. Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, is far superior to the original film. July 6th, Gossa Gossa. It's written across the entire door. All important message. In the corner, someone has added the Shrek trilogy too. I start laughing, and so does the other woman in the bathroom, and we each take a picture of it. A few weeks later, I find out my uncle is dead. He's told he's dying on a Wednesday, and he does it on Sunday. That night, my boyfriend drives me into the depths of the swamp so we can look at stars. On the drive back, I try to find a picture on my phone to show him, and I see this graffiti instead, the text loud and excited. I start to laugh, and it becomes crying, and I still somehow do both at the same time. I eventually return to the bathroom shrine of Mary Oliver. What does the soft animal of my body want to love? What animal have I become? I take my dog to the park and we watch the geese there. At night I dream of them, large, loud, always in pairs. The heat makes my days blend. Life feels stagnant, and that makes me worry that I am too. I consider throwing away all my clothes, selling my couches, quitting everything that ties me to a single place, and driving as far as I can until I feel like I am inside myself again. Impeach, crossed out. Assassinate Kavanaugh. August 7th, Bank Street Bar. I like the change. My personal wound feels like it's begun to scar over, and I want to pick at it again and again and again and again. I have become comfortable, less angry, and that can feel like complicity. It is so exhausting holding on to that violence, but I don't want to heal. I don't want to forget. I tell my boyfriend bits and pieces of my personal history. I explain the nightmares about men I never learned the names of, not to him, but what feels like a desperate bid to the universe to be heard. Don't let a sad boy with an I / boy / girl / woman / person get you down. It ain't fucking worth it, besides the self-introspection. September 13th, the other bar. We're going to a show at Gasa Gasa, but we stopped by the other bar first, and I don't know if these omnipotent instructions are for me or someone else. I try to follow the writing commandment and consider it if other people get me down, and decide really it seems like I'm the one making myself sad. The leaves barely change and the temperature still holds the summer's heat. Magic is real and it lives in your heart's crossed out cunts. September 13th, Gasa Gasa. This one makes me laugh and I feel grounded again. Move to New Orleans. Forget your old life. Talk to ghosts. November 8th, Circle Bar. I've lived in New Orleans long enough, I feel like I can impress people with my bar recommendations. I buy a book of Mary Oliver's poetry and immediately lose it. I haven't prayed in a long time, but tonight I find the soft animal of my body and God in a bathroom together, and I laugh and I dance with the man who loves me when I'm so human it hurts. I tell the ghosts in my life how much I love them. I forgive myself. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Kirsten. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right. If you are not accustomed to attending our Sunday readings, we intro with a personal story and anecdote with a little bit of other stuff peppered in. So our next reader is Karisma. I'm saying that Karisma so you don't walk up here and wait for me to finish reading this essay about you that I wrote. Okay. I officially met Karisma Price last year at New Orleans Poetry Festival, though we'd been texting for a few weeks before that. I had messaged Karisma asking if she wanted to be one of the featured poets on a poetry run that I was planning with the local running group. I assured her she didn't have to run with us, and that was a concern for most of the poets. But, gracious as always, Karisma informed me she would be very busy that night, but she'd love to collaborate on something else. We invited her to Gold Room a few weeks after that, and then after that, our literary festival. Every time I've heard Karisma read, she's held the room. And by that I mean, when Karisma takes the stage, she aims level, steady, and with ease, inviting us to come along with her, experiencing the work with her and through her. And she doesn't need to be loud, boisterous, 6 feet tall, or use her presence or reputation or literary repute to take up space. She takes up space by simply existing authentically, with grace, making room for listeners to experience joy, heartache, disaster, with her. I attended Kenyon Writers' Workshop last summer, and before our workshop began, we were asked to bring in a poem that significantly moved us. Mag Gabbert, one of the workshop leaders, brought in an award-winning poem of Karisma's. And then a few months ago, I opened my email to Poem a Day and saw Karisma's Castnet Seafood. And then almost 2 weeks ago, Karisma's debut poetry collection was reviewed in the New York Times under the title, From Newcomers and Veterans, 4 New Poetry Books Worth Your Time. I mention all of this to highlight Karisma's successes, that literary repute I mentioned earlier. And all of this recognition is more than deserved. But what comes to mind first for me, when I think about Karisma Price, is her graciousness. Her willingness to pretend to consider reading at a poetry running event, to drive to Araby on a Friday night and take the Gold Room stage, to be here tonight, following a Rockstar Week at AWP, and before that, New York City. Because at the end of the day, Karisma herself and her work reminds us that we're all human. A combination of grief, violence, earnestness, tenderness, and all deserving of time, regard, and love.
Karisma Price is a poet, screenwriter, media artist, and author of I'm Always So Serious, Saraband Books 2023. Her work has appeared in Oxford American Poetry, 4-Way Review, Wildness, a Joint Journal, and elsewhere. She is a Cave Canem Fellow, was a finalist for the 2019 Manchester Poetry Prize, and was awarded the 2020 J. Howard and Barbara M. J. Wood Prize from the Poetry Foundation. She is from New Orleans, Louisiana, and holds an MFA in poetry from New York University, where she was a writer and the Public Schools Fellow. She is currently an assistant professor of poetry at Tulane University. Everybody, right? Give it up, give it up, give it up.
Also, can everyone hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah. Short. We good?
Yeah.
Good. All right, thank you for having me. My poems are sad, so I heard y'all giggling. Keep that laughter in mind, all right? I even made like a little enamel pen where it's like, you know, the artistic or poetic license. I made poetic licenses.
Woo!
You can buy them from me if you want, but it's a poetic license, so mostly devastating. So, poems are sad, but whatever. Thank you so much. I think I'm gonna start with like 2 new poems and then just read poems from my book. So, there was graffiti in the previous work, and I have a poem that was somewhat based off graffiti, but not really. It was too. There's graffiti, like, so I teach at Tulane across from the library. I don't know if it's still there, but there was like some graffiti that said, toys aren't fun, but the F was scratched out. Or guns aren't fun, guns aren't toys, but toys are scratched out. So the word gun makes an appearance. So this is called Gossip. I heard she was sleeping with the mailman. That's why they get mail on Sundays. I heard they didn't really land on the moon. I heard they tried to start giving out reparations. Nah, no they didn't. They probably think it's too soon. I know that's secretly your child. You know that's not true. I didn't say that. You asked before I can give you an answer. Who said that? Was it me or you? You know I was just playing. I heard there's nothing stopping them from stealing the country. Hell, they already stole it. Ain't nothing real about them eyelashes but the glue. See, this is the only funny poem I have. I heard you were the glue keeping your family together. I heard you were the one who hit the dog. I heard it through the grapevine, from the mustard seed, the frog. You know the only thing between you and a cage is freedom. You know freedom ain't free. I heard she lied. You know that boy got done. I heard you scared. You know you ain't dead until you really dead. I think the gun had a name. He put an F on it for fun. I heard about the fun thrown in his face. Old girl sells seashells down by the seashore with Billy. Maybe she does it for fun or for fame. I heard they love each other. Love ain't love until you give it a name. I heard the government didn't love you. I heard they cut off your lights. You know things come alive in darkness. Ain't that why God invented night? There they go at the bar, drinking from the same cup. That's why up is down and down is up. I heard they jumped in the ocean, kissed the surface and gulped the blue. That's why some people's eyes green and other people shine shoes. Heard your family fake, that is separated into two. Your granddaddy, somebody else's granddaddy, and now your grandma got the flu. You went to church and learned about Jonah, said it sounded like nothing but hoodoo. I heard the car rented, it ain't really in your name. It ain't your fault. You know, when you was a baby, your mama got credit in your name. I heard you open the window, shared a song with the birds. The neighbors listened to your troubles and now your stuff is on the curb. I heard you make a mistake, opened your mouth and you thought what you said was fake. You ain't mean no harm. No, that's not something you would do. Don't you know sometimes you gotta close your ears to gossip because sometimes gossip is true. That's the only thing.
See, don't laugh. That's probably all laughing at you.
I am also here reading with
Maurice, where you at?
I'm back here.
It's like the scene in The Wiz. He's the man behind the curtain. He's Richard Pryor. So that was a new poem. This is a new poem. I have a new poem published. I bought this yesterday. Since So I'm gonna read this one. Maurice is in this one.
I'm right in front of you now.
Yeah, this one isn't really funny, but Maurice is here, so I thought I'd read it in front of his face. So, so this is when Maurice graciously, when he was a visitor, a John Grisham visitor person. Yes. So he had a visiting position at in Oxford. So he invited us all to this wonderful like writers retreat. Just come sit and write, not poems. Sorry, I made them poets, but just to write things. So I was telling him on this long walk that I felt like I wrote all of the poems in New York because I lived there for a while and like wrote about New Orleans there, so it's weird writing about it here. So this one is for Maurice. It's called I Wrote All My Good Poems in New York. I tell you, as we walk the trail in Oxford, surrounded by the trees I don't have names for. They hang over us like unpredictability, like life. I don't have a name for this, but I've tried calling it several things. Limbo, and unnestling into a familiar strangeness, unpaved streets. I'm afraid my hands work better in the cold. I mean, I think this is how construction starts. You return. You're non-adaptable, harder to move. The ground sinks, the water rises. I think too much of the fields. Write enough elegies to be the rabbits trespassing them. I mean, we've all once seen what we think should be there. A weapon shadow that turns out to be the refrigerator, a shirt hanging from the door, the toilet in the same spot gurgling like a victim, so fear swollen it's real. I love where I'm from. Religiously hunkered in the belly of the tub during rain-filled summers like a stove. It took 5 hours to get here. We should have switched drivers when the accents changed. Talk about what soothes our mothers. Blood is such a flimsy marker of kinship. The highway was a spine leading the way to the borrowed brain of the house we visit like an earworm. The cicadas call us from the noise we have no name for. We know things are wrong. We've listened too much. The land, like us, will one day be gone. Right now, let's pull the black card on nature. We deserve to be here. We cut the horsetail like troubled siblings, construct our own names, unchristen the smooth bark crepe myrtles, damnful clothing. Look at us. Once before, we trusted poisonous things because of their beauty. Angels' trumpets, the stones of cherries, ourselves. Which one is it?
That girl good.
That must be. Right when you say it. So this is my book. I'm always so serious and very happy to read from it because it used to just be like, now it's mine. Okay. Good. So now I'm going to stop talking so much in between the poems. But so it's called I'm Always So Serious because I have about 5 poems with that title. Those poems aren't like directly connected to one another. They just all have the same title. So I am going to read one of them. It's the first one in the book. We all know St. Charles has all the pretty mansions, and it's very pretty, but the area always felt a little weird to me because the area, the park, it used to be a sugar plantation. So that's how you get it. I'm always so serious. Which is to say, in the winters, I dream of owning a multi-floor mansion in New Orleans. Specifically one on St. Charles with a wraparound porch and white pillars that would only see the likes of me if I were the maid, the midwife, the family mechanic, Archie Manning, the maintenance worker, or the mailman trusted enough to know the gate's 9-digit passcode and leave the mail resting on the family's rain-weathered mahogany rocking chair. In this particular dream, I'm the mailman. The marigolds' red tongues lick the legs of the chair as I leave the mail on one of its non-refurbished lead-painted arms. Their green necks rapidly invade the eggshell-painted porch like any poor soldier in need of his salt. I rip one from the ground to the sacred killer. Look at its yellow center, a vibrant blister, before I rub it between my knuckles and render it a freshly brown thing. Looking back, this poem was only supposed to be about my sinuses. Even in my dreams, I sneeze at the sight of untended weeds, flowers whose mouths unfold into the brazen light of the sun. The nightmare is supposed to be my allergies, how they only allow me to love what blooms from a distance, but in every dream, those vibrant marigolds keep growing. Their vines are needle-bent tumors that keep stretching crazily onto the porch, keep making the rocking chair nervous at its own home. When I see that rocking chair, I see blood. It rocks like a heartbeat running from whatever is inside that mansion or behind it with the whips. I never learned what I read before I walk up here. I should. But, all right, we're in a bar. This is the stage. Raise your hand if you know who James Booker was.
No.
Oh, yes.
Come on.
Look, you would be surprised. That's why this is a practice. So, yep, James Booker, described as Dr. John as the best gay one-eyed piano player ever come from New Orleans. He taught everybody how to play wonderful things. So I have like 3 poems in the book that are persona poems around James Booker. So if you know him or if you haven't, you've probably seen him around town. There's like these portraits and murals of this black man with an afro, and he has like an eye patch on his left side, and it has a star. So he always said, oh, like, well, how'd you lose your eye? I lost it this way, this way, this way. And one of them was always like, oh, Ringo Starr's bodyguard took it. Which wasn't too far off because he did work with the Beatles and Ringo Starr. He worked with Little Richard, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, like all these people. He was a child prodigy who grew up to be like he was extraordinary. So he wasn't lying about. And he knew these people, but that's not what happened. So, you know, he was a brilliant musician, but due to mental health issues and drug addictions, you know, his life was tragically cut short. So there's like this big mythology around him. So this one is called James Booker Speaks to Ringo Starr About His Bodyguard Taking His Eye. You made a stranger perform your own tantrum. Don't be embarrassed. I'm still here. Where I am from, a man is judged if he cannot finish what he started, so finish me. Show me how you fight, and I'll show you how to possess Chopin and turn him into something darker than his own shadow. Little Lazarus, why wasn't it you who yanked the song out of me? I blessed the bloody knuckle with percussion you could not make. The fist that was not yours formed into a furious tumor, a fat flounder forcing its living against the brown swamp of my face. You made sure I was opened properly. If you were a real man, you'd have let me feed your hunger in an easier way. Would have let me teach you Fat's domino with one hand held over my gaping left socket while the other hand danced among the ivories. Instructor of the obedient, I see you. We both call others to move for us. Both own heavy hands that draw blood from the objects we wish to be. And this one, so for those of you who know James Booker, and for those of you who don't, he had like a somewhat like he had a residency at the Maple Leaf Bar uptown. It's still there, I suggest you go, the music is still great. So he would always show up and, you know, play on the Maple Leaf, sometimes under the influence of many things, sometimes nauseous, sometimes everything. So this is, his nickname was also the Bayou Maharaja, the Bayou Prince. If you haven't, please watch Lily Keeper's documentary, The Bayou Maharaja, The Tragic Genius of James Booker. So I also say that because the title of this is The Maple Leaf still speaks to the body of my horizon. The stage is a red face of wrinkles, and you've returned from Nice with no record deal. The first time you vomited on me, I forgave you. Wore it like a brown dressing from Commander's Palace. The second time you spilled, blood swarmed the cracks of my keys, but you continued playing in the slush. You backwards Moses. I know it's not the way you wanted to mark me, but what do you have left to give with the remains of a sour stomach? I created you to glorify me, to show the world an addict in a wig could rattle my body with divine imagination. I handed you a soul that could not be taken by anyone who fears you. Booker, I want it back. I'm gonna read another I'm Always So Serious poem, and then I'll read, after this I'll read like 2 poems and then get off the stage. And then, Twin, you can go after. All right. So this is another I'm Always So Serious poem. The first line comes from the song Higgs by Frank Ocean. I'm always so serious. I was spoiled by lavish thoughts, I admit it. History almost unchained itself from my weaker cloud. Everyone looked so excited on the anniversary of the assassination. I wrote this because I want to live in a house I cannot own because I am not white. Forgive me. I've said this before, but I was in a different state. A softer mania, and this time a wife lunged toward the mouths of overwatered magnolias. They were already dead. At my home, 2 chickens pecked the yard and refused to leave us eggs. I refused to rest out of unmet want. I harassed the gnats in the bathroom. I fixed the Sprite, wash your back, watch the night, eat all the dead crab. You watch me accumulate in particulars. I stretch the curtains. This is daylight, the swelling of the lizard's red tail. Inside the home I want for the wrong reason, there is a lamp that won't work. I know because the owners keep their blinds open. The husband joins his wife near the olive-shaded lamp and quails as his raving lover seizes the neck of the fixture. I shudder in the passenger seat of the seal, far enough to not be heard, but a light shines bright and I am seen, sleuthing and serious. I know close violences still form in the absence of want. I keep walking as the husband shuts the blinds. Because I don't read this one out loud a lot. This one is a nice poem, takes place on a subway in the snow. Everything else, the poem can tell you. So, I'm always so serious. Old enough to know I cannot continue living in metaphor, I tell you I want to exist without interference. I exist with white and static stars bursting in the center of my vision. It is after the concussion. I fear I may go blind. We sit unfastened on the long back of the bridge, eating the curled bodies of fried squid in the train car, sharing the food. Beyond the laminated glass, the air is the overwhelming color of doves. You canceled your date with the bank teller to chaperone me to a room the color of absence where a flashlight beams into my already expanded pupils. You say, it's fine. You and your boy wouldn't work out. He refused to say bless you when I sneezed. I ask you how you're going to celebrate Black History Month now, and you say by staying alive. You say you have a German Shepherd whose nails need trimming, a humidifier that needs distilled water, and you need a manicure that you'll get tomorrow because it's already 7:30 and the snow is unrelenting. In the winters, when I'm the only one in New York besides the family I've handpicked, my mother checks weather patterns. Even after protest, she mails me jam, thermals, and every packaged and pre-cooked thing that survived each postal worker is passed to. I tell her to save her money. As always, she refuses. There should be a safe word for this kind of kindness. Friend, look across from us. There is a couple whose hair is a coiled collection of clouds covering their peripherals. They hover over the beaded head of their child in what I can't distinguish as a whisper or kiss. Doesn't matter, because when you roll your eyes in their direction, they have stopped their surrender. Friend, don't let me interrupt your living. Let me tell you this while the metal carries us. I care that you are cared for. You watch the cuff squeeze my arm. It is Valentine's Day. We know that mostly everything around us is measured in blood. I'm holding your hand after the concussion to steady myself in the constellations that make themselves known. The subway whooshes us over the buildings dressed in white coats. We sit in the clack-clack of movement. So this is the last poem I'll read, and I will walk off the stage. Okay, maybe I am funny. So it's like you can't really see, I don't know what the writing looks like, but it looks like a sideways triangle. It's some people already know it's the autocorrect poem. So I made a joke. It started off as a joke. I was telling my friends, and then I was like, oh, I have a poem. And people liked it. I made a joke that my smartphone must be white because it autocorrected nigga tonight, like nighttime. So I wrote a poem. So it's called My Phone Autocorrected Nigga Tonight. My nights play cousin to their mother's favorite cows. My nights won't consume their reflections, so they pour milk in their coffee. My nights never rest, so they sing their shadows to sleep. Sometimes they don't remember any words. My nights have frogs stuck in their throats. No light soul, every bit of pain. My nights all Louis Armstrong minus the trumpet, and my nights play chicken with the train. My nights both shoe and polish, both Sambo and Bruce Leroy. We all little pretty medallions on our grandmother's nightstands. My nights are mistaken for other nights that bear no resemblance. I saw the sinew of the oldest knight in the neighborhood on the floor, his St. Pendant missing. All the small, down-feathered nights scattered in the throne of pig sirens. My nights don't know their history. My nights are pecans without the trees that grow them. My nights instruct all the people in their head to be. My nights hate the firefly cutting their darkness. My night, did you just see them? They walked right past us and didn't even speak. My nights are ordinary. Wear ruffled socks, have the best belts. My nights don't always go to church, but my nights are lambs worthy of the morning. My nights are revised constitutions, crypt keepers. My nights are a congregation of alligators on a rumpus body. My nights hiss into themselves. No one hears. Their blood rolls its eyes. My nights chew gum and sunflower seeds. My nights eat pork. My nights get the itis and slur their speech. My nights protest protests. The government watches. My nights live in Brazil, Botswana, the Congo, Cuba, DR, France, Grenada, Greece, Honduras, Ireland, Liberia, Lithuania, Nigeria, Venezuela, Zimbabwe. My nights live in America to remind you of me. Some people think my nights are better with their eyes closed, but my nights are beautiful qualities. My nights wash clothes that don't belong to them and won't look their bosses in the eye. My nights know necessity. My nights oblige. When my nights die, I wash them on my kitchen table. After my nights are washed, I throw away the table. My nights have names. My nights smell of sage. My nights smell of the muddy rivers they will never swim in again. Thank you.
Give it up one more time for Karisma. Since someone is taller than us. Okay.
I want to begin with a shout out to Always Lounge for welcoming us and providing a home for our little liminal love child.
and begin my introduction to Maurice Carlos Ruffin. By acknowledging that I don't think that liminal would exist in the form that it does without the role that Maurice has played as a linchpin in our writing community. Before even applying to the CWW, where Nikki and I incubated liminal together, I was introduced to this community in the back room of Maurice's Pelican Club. Yeah. Which then housed the Gold Room reading series, literally like a little hidden womb tucked in the back beyond these winding corridors. The space that Maurice provided was essential for us. It was a safe space where writers could gather together, supporting and sharing with each other. It totally set the tone and the vibe for our work with liminal. And I hope that Maurice doesn't mind if we feel like we're continuing to keep that legacy alive. Legacy, yeah, do that, really. That's a real thing, yeah. Legacy, community, these are definitely hashtags we could add to the Maurice Carlos Ruffin's brand. When I first heard the title of his famous book, Those Who Don't Say They Love You, I was struck hard with familiarity. Growing up in the 7th Ward, my own papa certainly made it a point, when told by us kids, I love you, to respond with a smirk and a declaration, I don't love you, like Maurice, come on, that's so real, that's so real. Yeah, so of course, we all know that what is said and what is meant are not always the same. A paradox that strikes clear and true to the nature of language as well as New Orleans and even Maurice. Quietly, ever present and ever smiling, with a CV pages and pages long, Maurice has been doing the work and supporting writers of all levels in New Orleans, in Baton Rouge, and nationwide for over a decade. Need proof? Check out the hundreds of photos from this year's AWP he posted on Facebook. Yeah. It is a real testimony, right? For over 12 years. He has been a clearly devoted member of community, our community nationwide, with generosity and humility as a lesson to us all in grace. Twins, right? In grace. And the pursuit of constant growth as creatives and human beings. Not everything can be said, some things can only be seen. Maurice brings this clarity and complexity to the language, to the page in language that is careful and accessible to everyone. No lie. When my students are given the choice of books to use for diagramming sentences, this is no lie, they pick Maurice's book. People everywhere are picking up this book, and rightfully so. Such an honest, balanced, and loving depiction of our people in this place is hard to come by. So please join me in expressing how stoked we are to make some space for and to celebrate with Maurice today.
This is my equally long bio for Maurice. And this is the short bio. Maurice Carlos Ruffin, no S. Maurice Carlos Ruffin.
This is what I'm doing today, clearly. This is what I'm doing.
Is the author of The Ones Who Don't Say They Love You, which was published by One World Random House in August 2021. It is the 2023 One Book, One New Orleans selection. The book was a New York Times editor's choice, noticing a theme, a finalist for the Ernest J. Gaines Award for Literary Excellence, and longlisted for the Story Prize. His first book, We Cast a Shadow, was a finalist for the PEN Faulkner Award, the Dayton Literary Peace Prize, and the PEN America Open Book Prize. It was longlisted for the 2021 Dublin Literary Award, the Center for Fiction Prize, and the Aspen Words Literary Prize. The novel was also a New York Times editor's choice. It's also a novel that I taught to my kids at Xavier last year and the year before, so.
And
yeah.
it's the required reading at Newman this year. What? Yeah.
It's, oh, I lost my place. It's so long.
Speaking of Archie Manning.
Ruffin is the winner of several literary prizes, including the Iowa Review Award in Fiction and the William Faulkner William Wisdom Creative Writing Competition Award for Novel in Progress. His work has appeared in the New York Times, the LA Times, the Oxford American, Garden and Gun, Kenyon Review, and 400 Souls, A Community History of African America. a New Orleans native. Ruffin is a professor of creative writing at Louisiana State University and the 2020-2021 John and Renee Grisham Writer in Residence at the University of Mississippi. Ruffin is the 2022 Grand Marshal of the Mardi Gras Crew House Clothes and recipient of the 2022 Louisiana Board of Regents Atlas Grants. Ruffin has taught at numerous residencies and conferences, including Fred Loeb, Sewanee, Maine Media, Randolph College, MFA, and Longleaf. Ruffin was a co-curator of the Read My World Literary Festival in Amsterdam in 2017 and a contributor in 2022. Woo!
Come on.
Give it up for Maurice Carlos Ruffin.
First, thanks to always. Make sure we tip the bartender. Tip the bartender don't too much. Just keep throwing dollars and $5 bills at the bartender. All right. Thank you, Liminal Pack, for here tonight. That was an amazing. That's like the best intro I've ever heard in my entire life. I felt like that was like my Nobel Prize acceptance introduction. Shout out to both Kirsten and Karisma. I am your, big hand. I am your author of the evening, whose name does not start with a K, because if that was the case, we'd have 3 Ks. Oh, by the way, this is the emotionally devastation pendant for sale back there. Thanks for having me. So, I'm very happy to be here tonight. So, this community is one of the greatest communities of writers on earth. Can I say that? I say that because I travel many places, Amsterdam, people in New York sometimes, that kind of thing. The people here are just so lovely and so caring. It's not so much like a competition, it's a uprising together. So tonight, I want to read something I've never read in New Orleans before. So, Rizzy, my twin, mentioned that I was at Oxford over in Ole Miss, and I was there at John Bishop's house for a year. And I kind of wrote like 3 novels in like 6 months. It was all the cocaine, no. I'm not really a fast writer, but it was the spirit that was driving me. And it was the spirit of like, considering like my ancestry. Y'all still that minute. I had been doing some work on ancestry.com. I'd gone on there, I paid the like $50 fee, whatever, and I was like trying to track my ancestors down. Now my dad's side was easy to track down because of patriarchy, the names always matched up, it was very easy. My mother's side was like a dead end, like say 4 generations back. And I got really frustrated. I just like stopped my search for a while. And then I realized that, that was kind of a cowardly approach to it. And I began to just do what Sadia Hartman talks about in her essay, Beauty in 2 Acts. She won the Genius Grant by saying, sometimes because of how society operates against women and against people of color and black folks, the facts are not always there, but you can sort of infer what's been happening out there. And so what I did was I began to construct a book based on my grandmother's life in the 1940s. And the reason why is because I've been watching the ladies in my life, like my mother, my aunties, and my own interaction. My mother and I, we're great friends now, but back in the day we had some issues. But like 10 minutes ago, she sent me a text. This is the text she sent me. Hello, Maurice. I just got off the exercise bike. I stayed on for 20 minutes. I'm going to do some more later. Take care. Love you. That would have happened like 10, 15 years ago. That's the like work we've been doing together. So I think that's probably what inspired this. So tonight I'm going to read an excerpt. I always try to read like way far ahead of what I'm working on so that I don't get too complacent. So I got a book coming out next year that is about a bunch of black women and girls. They're like lady spies in the 1850s who get tired of Confederates and decide just to kill them all, right? That's next year. It's a lot of fun to have written that book. That's American Daughters. But this is the book after that. It's still untitled, but it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the very first part. I'm going to take this off. I'm gonna put some mood music on for this.
You must remember, a kiss is just a kiss, a sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental
Doris,
things of life.
January 2nd, 1945. Escape. Annie could mark the passage of time over the prior 17 years by fights with her daughter, right back to the very first one, when infant Doris bit Annie's nipple hard enough to make her bite her own tongue. Annie had been possessed first by a spirit to smack the child, then a spirit to curse. Instead, she gritted her teeth and stared at the red deco clock on the kitchen wall. All right, that's the first paragraph. I always say this is gonna take between 16 and 21 minutes to read based on how fast my heart's beating. It's kind of beating fast now, so we're gonna do like maybe 17 and a half minutes. So let's see. All right. Doris relished a tussle. Liked to see her mother Annie perplexed. Indeed, Annie found herself in a fiendishly difficult situation now. Doris wanted out of the house, while Annie was the one who suggested she go. So they went in agreement. And that more than anything else felt to them both like walking across a greased pipe in the dark. Doris sat at the kitchen table of the house Annie rented for the family. Annie was still in her work clothes, the blue-gray dress and white apron she wore when cleaning houses. Scarf wrapped around her head. Annie placed a hand on the table. Her other thumb was hooked on the apron string. A bit of body language that, as always, said, "Don't mess with me," to Doris. Doris, of course, she saw that bit of unacknowledged body language as a challenge. "I'm giving you a chance to change your mind," Annie said. "You don't have to go nowhere." Ella was sitting across from Doris, her eyes huge. Doris's sister was younger by 2 years, a freshman at John McDonald, the same high school where Doris was a senior. For Doris's part, she thought it was important to demonstrate for Ella the importance of standing firm. Ella was a doormat. She needed spine lessons. Annie was thankful that Doris's ways hadn't rubbed off on the younger of her daughters. Annie was especially proud when, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Ella shaking her head, warning. Her good, helpful girl, always on her side. Doris shot up from her chair. Her voice was clear. On the one hand, she could do the laundry list of things Annie demanded. Go to church with them twice a week. Help around the house without complaining. Stop hiking up her skirts. Throw away those boy shorts she had traded with a classmate last month. Pay attention in school. Stop back talking to poor teachers. Read the Bible religiously. And not with laughter. Well, nobody would ever kissed that lady. So how she had a baby when she's 100 years old? Stop back talking, Annie. Stop threatening to quit school. And if she did, then find a good job or a decent husband or both. And stop being so fast. But slow was death for Doris. Slow was the poison mouse that Doris had collected that very morning in the cupboard. Doris's mother and Ella had been afraid of the lifeless body, so Doris scooped it right up in her bare hand and took it out to the galvanized garbage can on the side of the house. Slow was being afraid. Slow was being timid. Slow was wearing that apron and cleaning houses and having sore feet, a hurtful back, and fainting spells from washing clothes in the furnace of the New Orleans summer. The event that led to this showdown was wrapped in cherry-flavored irony. It was a sweet, literally, that set things in motion. Just yesterday, Sunday, the neighbor, Mrs. Patton, must have seen Doris kissing someone in the alley between the two houses nearby. Mrs. Patton, that busybody, must have told Annie about the boy. They were in raincoats, the cows pulled up. Doris did it because it seemed like a fun thing to do, but the kissy was no boy. Those soft lips belonged to June, Doris's closest companion since, well, forever. Doris had shared candy with her, a gumdrop. June had grabbed her hand and said, "Kiss me," just like that, "kiss me," which Doris took as a dare. It didn't matter that Doris's answer to most dares was yes. She enjoyed the moment. June, her skittish sidekick June, was a very good kisser, and so sparks had gone off all over the back of Doris's head, which stopped her from seeing that they were being watched. And now, Annie wanted Doris to change all her ways or be shipped off to stay with Auntie Byrne in the country. Don't say nothing crazy. Ella held her hand towards Doris across the table. Ella knew this was a hopeless cause. Doris took encouragement as encouragement and opposition as encouragement. Her sister was going to do what was ever flying around in her mind at that moment. Whatever mischievous thing, like a little baby with a little gun. Adorable, but also. Doris cocked her head and imitated Annie's pose, hand on hip and all. Doris had the feeling of hearing something in the attic after bedtime and being unsure if it was a rodent or the mating call of that which crawled into her head when she dreamed. "Fine," Doris said. She sat. "Don't need to blow your top, Mama. I'll go stay with Auntie. She makes the best beans and rice anyway." Doris watched the anger in Annie's face melt. Doris had struck on two fronts. On two fronts, the equivalent of two slaps, one forehand and one back. As to the first slap, Doris knew Annie didn't want her to go away. The daughter leaving the city, leaving their home, was a defeat for the mother, a sign that Annie couldn't raise her own. In conversations that Doris would never hear, Doris knew that Auntie Byrne would question Annie's child rearing. The slap would echo onward, even when Doris wasn't around. And the second slap was related to those red beans. Annie took pride in all her meals, but especially her beans. A pot of them were waiting for their mouths that very moment. Steaming, succulent, the kind of beans that make your nose twitch. Waiting to be consumed beans, appreciable beans. Annie made perfect, creamy, salty beans. And saying that Annie's older sister was better at red beans and rice was a lie, and especially cruel, even for Doris. Doris, for her part, regretted it the second she said it. Annie's whole face was hot, but she couldn't be mad at Doris for calling her bluff. It was Annie who had taught Doris how to play whist. She had taught her child the importance of remembering which cards had been played already. She had taught her daughter to take her opponent's cards with verve. And now, Doris had a stacked hand. Annie muttered, then spoke. "All right, you going then? Go wait on the porch. I'm calling the car man right now." Ella looked from Annie to Doris in astonishment, but neither moved. Out of a sense of falling, Ella stood to right herself, so that all three of them were standing and leaning on that table. Ella saw Doris's canvas suitcase, which Annie had Doris pack. Surely it's to prove a point. Next to the stove, the bag was crammed to the maximum. It bulged. "Don't you touch that bag, Elle," Annie said. "You stay here. She's so big, she can carry her own." Dogs. Although the younger, she was taller and larger than Doris, and she had come to take pride in helping out with heavy things. But she didn't want to touch that bag anyway. She imagined the handle might be too hot to the touch, hot as the bottom of that steel pot over there. Those beans bubbling. Doris lifted her chin. "I had it, sis. Thank you." Doris went to the porch and sat on the steel chair, which was freezing against her bare legs. She had been, Doris, in the middle of theirs like this too many times to count. If Annie had said Doris was afraid to jump into the Mississippi River, Doris would have been satisfied until someone dove in to pull her out. And she couldn't swim. All it would take was for her to go back into that kitchen and say she was sorry. Annie would be mad that she had to give $1 to the taxi for the trouble of coming out. And Doris might be grounded for a day, maybe 2. But that'd be the end of it. Doris hugged herself against the chill. It was windy. Well, it wasn't windy, but this was January. And the air was salty and wet and frostbitten, like the way the fish spilled over at the market on St. Claude. Doris wanted to be free of the weight of it. Her mother was always draped over the shoulders of her life like a bear rug. She couldn't stand it anymore. Ella walked out to the porch. Mama said to give you this. It was a church envelope. Annie kept a stack of them so that when she went to hear the sermons and the preacher asked for the 10% tithe, all she had to do was just take the fold out of her purse and drop it to that tray. That's enough for your bus ticket. And something to eat, she said. And Doris laughed. But she didn't sound as confident as she wanted to sound. She felt she was letting Ella down with any wavering at all. Sound good to me? You ain't really about to leave, are you? Ella said in a whisper. Oh, you just want me to crawl back in there on my knees? Just go inside and hug her, Ella said. Ella Marie Barnes, get your behind back in here, Annie said from inside. It don't take that long to hand over that packet. Ella watched Doris, who just smiled that crazy, wicked smile of hers. This, more than anything, caused the panic inside Ella's chest to harden and spin. Ella knew that if there were one way to get through was through contact. The Barnes women, including herself, were moved most by touch. Ella grabbed Doris's hands. Doris sat back, but didn't try to shake Ella's grip. Don't leave me like this. It don't make no sense at all. Doris raised her chin. She's the one not making sense. I need you to use your mind. Ella said, it's supposed to. I'm the baby sister here. God damn it, don't. And Doris's mouth fell open. Ella never spoke that way. Not Ella, who actually enjoyed arriving at church early to get to the front pew. Doris heard a car coming, and sure enough, it was the taxi man. Sometimes the choices made themselves. She didn't like to see hurt in Ella's eyes, but she'd be fine. Ella and Andy were twins in looks and spirit. And hell, they'd have it easier without Doris in the middle knocking them this way and that. Doris got up. Anything else? Doris asked. When you're going to love yourself as much as everyone else does? Ella asked. Doris picked up the suitcase. Take care of Mom, Doris said. She stepped away from the house, which felt like being pushed from a balcony. Get some more. Sip, sip, sip. That's for the video, so they can put a little tag under it saying what I was going. It's a modern world. We gotta take care of everybody.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, it's the last bit. It's about 4 more pages-ish. All right. 15 minutes later, Doris was at Union Station having second thoughts. A few facts sat on her shoulders. She had never been away from New Orleans by herself. She had never ridden in a bus or train far behind her neighborhood. The terminal was full of white people, men and women in pretty dresses and sharp suits. At school, she was popular, and when she entered a room, her classmates took notice of her. And yet here, she felt like a crumb floating in used cooking oil. Useless, unwanted. She knew no good would come of her talking to Annie the way she had. Why then did it feel so good? Doris made her way across the massive tile floor of Union Station. A bird had gotten inside the high room, and it flew a tight circle and landed clumsily on the large clock. On the destinations board, she saw the bus to Lafayette, where she imagined Auntie Byrne and her cousins sitting on their porch, with all their kids rocking in the dusk. The phone would ring any moment from Annie's call, and there would be much head shaking and tut-tutting. A group of women were lined up at the doors that led out to the train platform. The ladies were in khaki uniforms with smart matching hats. Teachers, nurses. Doris walked to the ticket desk where the middle-aged white man was also staring at those uniformed women. He shook his head. "Where you headed, gal?" he asked. "I'd like a bus ticket to Lafayette, sir," she said. You're not going with those girls over there, then?" "No, sir," Doris looked. "I'm not with them." "Good. A pretty colored gal like you," he said, scanning her body. "It just figures you'd have better things to do here on the home front." A couple of the uniformed women were laughing. Doris she'd hardly noticed that she stepped away from that ticket desk without buying anything at all. She wanted a closer look. There was a lever on the wind, a wave that moved through the world, that from time to time guided spirits like Doris's. If that old bigot of a ticket man had something against those ladies, then that made Doris the more curious about them. "You lost or something?" a woman said from behind her. She was in uniform, that woman. She was slightly a bit shorter than Doris, although Doris wasn't that tall herself. The lady seemed older, like Annie's age, but then again, anybody over age 25 seemed old to Doris. It hit Doris that this woman was colored, but the group was mixed. At school, at church, on the bus, on the streetcar, in all the little dusty moments of her life, she was pushed to the black corners of everything as if by a broom. And although she loved those corners, she hated being confined to them. She lived her life off to the side in peanut galleries, but not this woman in this group. They were all mixed in together, black and white, getting on a train, going where they wanted to go. If that wasn't an escape, what was? "Who are y'all?" Doris asked. "The Salvation Army or something?" "Ha," the woman said. "Believe it or not, we're the Army. We're wax. On a train up in Iowa by way of Chicago." "Women? Girls in the military?" "Women," the woman said, "doing our part for our country. It ain't just the men folks' job to stand up for our people, And that last comment is what did it for her. Doris's voice, her throat was dry, but she gathered herself. "Well, how do I go with y'all?" Doris asked. "Say again?" I want to join up." "You gotta be at least 18 to enlist." "I'm 22, Doris lied, realizing that in sounding so overzealous, she probably seemed even younger than she was. Still, most of her friends said she seemed older by how she carried herself, but maybe 22 was a stretch. But then again, her mouth, like her writing hand, always moved faster than her mind. Oh well. Third Officer Sammy Gorman, the woman staring at this girl that we know as Doris, was no fool. She had herself run away from home many years before. And although this girl was clearly too young to enlist, she was wearing her school skirt. Who was she fooling? Sammy knew about that thirst for freedom. The girl didn't seem like she was being slapped around or anything. No, she was probably just a match. The kind of person who started little fires everywhere she went. What better place than the Women's Army Corps? What organization could mold and direct those energies better than us? Yes, Major Phillips would like this one, while she'd remind her of Sammy herself. Sammy was wild when she got into it back in the summer of '42, and this girl, well, she wouldn't be the first questionable listener in the history of the service. But first, there was something she needed to know. "Miss, what'd you say your name was?" "Doris. Doris Barnes of Tremay." "Well, Miss Doris Barnes of Tremay, you're just too young. The military don't got time for babysitting. We're a very serious outfit. Now you take care of yourself. Now, you hear, girl?" Sammy adjusted her hat and turned away sharply like she was leading a marching band. Doris grabbed the woman's wrist. Sammy stopped cold and looked at the hand holding her. You better explain yourself. You don't just grab an officer of the United States Army. Doris could hardly breathe alone talk, but she couldn't let this chance slip by. Please, I only want to help. I'm good at a lot of things. Whatever y'all need me to do. Such as, what are you good at? Doris Barnes Tremaine. Cleaning, sewing. I can cook too. Casserole, gumbo, red beans and rice. Even as she spoke, Doris noted that those were all skills Annie had taught her. What did she, Doris, own? What had she taught herself? I write poems. And I'm a reporter at the school newspaper too. I thought you were out of school. I was a reporter in school. Sammy chuckled. Her ruse had worked. She ran that game on her niece so many times. It almost felt too easy. But she had her answer. This Doris was serious about enlisting. Well, serious is what a 16, 17-year-old could be about anything. I'm Third Officer Gorman. Sammy held her hand out. You mean I can go? You're lucky, Sammy said. I'm a recruiter. Doris gasped. Then her lips worked frantically as she struggled for words. What do I do? She asked. Well, you can shake my hand. Doris grabbed the woman's hand with both of her own hands. Come on, we'll get you a ticket. Later that night, as the train trundled just south of Memphis, Doris was curled up by the window of the sleeper she shared with one other. Her cabin mate, a girl named Irene from Grand Isle, was asleep. Doris realized that the bus she was supposed to catch to Lafayette would have already arrived at its destination by then. Auntie Byrne would have waited for her at the terminal in the country. And when Doris didn't show, she would have called Annie and Ella and they, including the cousins and their children, the whole congregation of them, would have worried about where she'd gone. Doris had disappeared the night before. Had gone over to June's family's fancy mansion on Esplanade, or walked around Congo Square with a stick in her hand in case somebody messed with her in the dark. But this was different. She was gone, out of the city, out of the state. She felt like a rubber band, like that band that tied her to Annie and Ella was being stretched and stretched. In any moment, it would just.
Woo! Give it up one last time for Maurice and all three of our readers. What an amazing evening. Thank you all for being here. We've got some quick housekeeping. We have a really big month ahead of us in April, but even before we get there, March 31st, we have a generative writing workshop led by Anel Lopez, who's here, and it's actually based off of Maurice's book, The Ones Who Don't Say They Love You, in collaboration with One Book, One New Orleans. So if you're interested in that, please follow us on social media. It will be March 31st, free, as always, with everything that we do, starting at 6 p.m., I believe, right now, because that's a Friday. Yeah.
Yes.
Location to be announced soon. Follow us on social media to find out. All right, Sunday, April 2nd, 6 to 8 p.m. Andrea Fonseca is leading a workshop on Zoom, movement, improv, and poetry workshop. So if you are feeling like you need to get a little spice in your writing life, come to that. Monday, April 3rd, 6 to 7:30, Christine Kwan and Tiana Nobile for Ribbon the Most Perfect Blue, the Christine's book launch. It will be at Blue Cypress Books. Shout out to our friends. So come out and hear some amazing poets read amazing poetry. Speaking of amazing poetry, Poetry and Pie is Thursday, April 6th. I will be reading with Tracy Lindemann at Windowsill Pie. So this one is specifically themed about endometriosis. So Tracy's coming in from Quebec in Canada. She wrote a book called Bleed, and I have a book-length poem about endometriosis and my journey with that. So please come out on April 6th and hear some good stuff. It's going to be moderated by a Tulane professor whose name I forget in this moment. I'm sorry, Tulane professor. Okay, Sunday, April 23rd, 6 p.m. On this stage, Jorge Arturo, Carolyn Hembry, and Samantha Hunt, who is an author who's written 6 books. I have them all written down. I don't have time to read them all. She's prolific. Please come back on Sunday, April 23rd to hear those 3. Thursday, April 27th, we have a book fancer that we are co-hosting with Blue Cypress Books. Lisa Pessold, Carolyn Hembry will be talking about the poetic process. I will be there as well. And then Sunday, April 30th, this is our last event in April because it's literally the last day of April. 4 p.m. at Blue Cypress Books, Brad Bouchard will be leading a poetry workshop. Also free, everything is free. If you want to find out more, such as our Lit Fest that's in June, if you want to be a reader, we have a poetry contest happening right now that one person has submitted to, so your odds of winning are really high. See Michelle, she's got QR codes for those things. Buy books. Tip your bartenders, and let's clear the floor as quickly as possible so Swing Dance can move in. We love you all. Have a good night.
Yay! Yay!
She's right over here.
We gotta get a picture together.
Ready.
Yeah.
Anytime you want.